Picture a flickering, grainy security feed from a rundown hotel elevator in the heart of Los Angeles. Timestamp January 31st, 2013. A young woman steps inside, her silhouette barely illuminated by the dim overhead light. She's alone, or so it seems. Her fingers jab frantically at every button on the panel, as if desperate to escape something closing in. The doors refuse to shut, hanging open like a gaping wound. She peers into the hallway, her eyes wide with primal fear, scanning left and right for an unseen threat. Then, in a heartbeat, she ducks back, pressing her body into the elevator's corner, making herself small, almost invisible, like a hunted animal. Her hands begin to move, slow, eerie gestures, waving into the empty air, as if she's pleading with someone, or something, just beyond the camera's reach. She steps out, hesitates, returns, presses the buttons again, her movements growing more erratic. Then she exits left, her footsteps fading into silence, and the doors finally close, sealing the elevator like a tomb. For 19 days, no one knows where she is. No one expects her to be found where she was. In 2013, Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old Canadian student, walked into the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles and into one of the most haunting mysteries of our time. A 4-minute video, a locked rooftop, a water tank hiding a horrific secret, and a cascade of questions that claw at our minds, refusing to let go no matter how many answers we try to force upon them. This isn't just a story of a disappearance. It's a descent into the unknown, a puzzle that's gripped the internet for over a decade, a mirror reflecting our deepest fears about vulnerability, isolation, and the truths we may never uncover. Stay with us, because the story of Elisa Lam is more than a mystery. It's a chilling reminder of what happens when someone cries for help in a world that's stopped listening. What happened in that elevator? And why does its shadow still linger, whispering questions we're terrified to answer? Elisa Lam was a soul in search of meaning, a young woman whose vibrant spirit clashed with the shadows of her own mind. Born in 1991 to immigrant parents from Hong Kong, she grew up in Burnaby, British Columbia, a quiet suburb of Vancouver where her family ran a modest restaurant, the kind of place where regulars lingered over coffee and wonton soup. She was the eldest daughter, a role she carried with pride, her childhood filled with the warmth of family dinners and the weight of expectations. At University Hill Secondary, Elisa was a straight-A student, her nose always buried in books, Dostoevsky's brooding existentialism, Sylvia Plath's raw poetry, David Foster Wallace's intricate prose. Her mind was a labyrinth of ideas, her heart a canvas of emotions she poured into her Tumblr blog, Nouvelle Nouveau, a digital sanctuary where she wrestled with her dreams, her insecurities, and her place in a world that often felt overwhelming. "You're always haunted by the idea you're wasting your life," she wrote in 2012, a confession that cuts deeper when you know her fate. Her blog was a kaleidoscope of her inner world, whimsical posts about Florence and the machines haunting lyrics, vintage dresses she longed to wear, travel destinations she dreamed of visiting, interspersed with raw, unfiltered glimpses of her struggles with bipolar disorder. Diagnosed in her late teens, Elisa navigated a condition that swung her between radiant highs, where she felt invincible, her thoughts sparkling with creativity, and crushing lows, where despair and paranoia consumed her. "I want to be seen, but I'm terrified of being noticed," she posted, a paradox that defined her existence, a cry for connection cloaked in fear of judgment. Her family knew the toll of her illness. Her sister described manic episodes where Elisa would hide under her bed, convinced someone was watching her, or speak in frantic, disjointed bursts, her thoughts racing faster than her words could keep up. Medication, lithium, lamotrigine, quetiapine, helped stabilize her, but Elisa often resisted it, wary of losing the spark that made her feel alive. "I'm scared I'll lose myself completely," she wrote in 2011, a fear that shadowed her every decision. Despite her struggles, she was determined to live boldly. In January 2013, at 21, she embarked on a solo journey down the West Coast, her West Coast adventure, a quest for freedom, self-discovery, and the thrill of new horizons. San Diego, Los Angeles, Santa Cruz. She wanted to taste the life she'd read about in Kerouac's On the Road, seen in indie films, imagined in her late-night musings. "I'm in California," she posted on Tumblr. "I want to feel alive, like I'm enough." She packed a backpack with clothes, notebooks, and dog-eared paperbacks, her excitement palpable in photos of sunlit beaches, quirky bookstores, and street art she shared online. But beneath the surface, her mental health was fraying. Her posts grew erratic, her calls home less frequent, her words tinged with a growing unease. "I'm tired of feeling like I'm drowning in my own head," she confessed days before arriving in Los Angeles. By the time she checked into the Cecil Hotel on January 28, 2013, Elisa was teetering on the edge. A young woman alone in a city of millions, her mind a battlefield of hope and fear, her heart yearning for connection in a place that would become her undoing. She didn't know it, but she was stepping into a hotel with a history so dark it seemed to pulse with malice, a place where dreams withered and shadows thrived. The Cecil Hotel isn't just a building. It's a living, breathing entity, a decaying monument to despair that looms over downtown Los Angeles like a predator waiting for its next victim. Built in 1924 at 640 South Main Street, it was once a jewel of the city's Art Deco era. Its marble lobby and crystal chandeliers welcoming Hollywood starlets, traveling tycoons, and wide-eyed tourists chasing the California dream. 600 rooms across 14 floors. A promise of elegance in a city bursting with ambition. But the Great Depression gutted its grandeur, and by the 1950s, the Cecil was sliding into decay, its location on the edge of Skid Row sealing its fate. Skid Row, a 5-block radius where 50,000 homeless people lived in tents and cardboard shelters, was a crucible of poverty, addiction, and violence, a place where hope went to die, and the Cecil stood as its grim sentinel. The hotel's history is a catalog of horrors, a litany of tragedies that earned it nicknames like the Suicide and Hotel Death. In the 1930s, guests leapt from its upper floors, their suicides barely registering in the city's pulse. In 1962, a woman named Pauline Otten jumped from the 9th floor, landing on a pedestrian below, killing them both. In 1964, retired telephone operator Pigeon Goldie Osgood was found raped and murdered in her room, her case still unsolved. In 1985, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, lived on the 14th floor during his killing spree, returning to the Cecil with blood-soaked clothes, dumping them in the alley before slipping back into his room, unnoticed. In 1991, Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger checked in, using the hotel as a base to lure sex workers to their deaths. Overdoses, stabbings, unexplained disappearances. The Cecil was a magnet for the desperate, the dangerous, and the damned. It was a place where you could vanish, a former resident told the Los Angeles Times in 2013, and no one would blink. By 2013, the Cecil was a shadow of its former self, its lobby dim, its carpet stained, its air thick with the stench of mildew and neglect. Elevators creaked, lights flickered, and the hallways echoed with the shouts of long-term residents, some on parole, others hiding from their pasts, mixed uneasily with budget tourists drawn by the hotel's $40 a night rates. The Cecil was chaos, a former manager said in a 2021 Netflix documentary. You had junkies in the stairwells, fights in the halls, police raids every week. It wasn't a hotel. It was a pressure cooker ready to explode. For Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old battling bipolar disorder, the Cecil was a fatal choice. She checked into a shared room on the 5th floor, unaware of its blood-soaked past, its ability to amplify fear, its knack for swallowing those who strayed too far from the light. For a young woman alone, vulnerable and spiraling, the Cecil wasn't just a backdrop. It was a trap, a place that fed on the lost, waiting to claim its next story. January 31st, 2013, dawned like any other day at the Cecil Hotel, a cacophony of chaos, tension, and grim routine. But for Elisa Lam, it was the day she'd vanish, leaving behind a trail of questions that still haunt us, a puzzle with pieces that refused to fit. She woke up in her shared room on the 5th floor, her belongings a snapshot of her life, a laptop glowing with open tabs, a stack of dog-eared books, novels, philosophy, travel guides, an unopened bottle of bipolar medication on the nightstand, its label a silent warning. Her roommates had already complained to management about her odd behavior, late-night pacing, muttering to herself, leaving cryptic notes like "go away" or "don't touch my stuff" taped to their beds. She was sweet one minute, then intense the next, a roommate told police, her voice uneasy. It was like she was somewhere else. Wary of conflict, the hotel moved Elisa to a private room that morning, hoping to quell the tension. Elisa spent the day exploring Los Angeles, her adventurous spirit still flickering despite her unraveling state. She visited the last bookstore, Labyrinthine Haven in downtown L.A., where she lingered among shelves of novels and travel guides, buying more books than she could carry. 2 delivery men, strangers she'd met at the store, offered to help, carrying a heavy box of books back to the Cecil's lobby. They were the last confirmed people to see her alive outside the hotel, describing her as friendly but nervous, her hands fidgeting, her eyes darting as she thanked them with a strained smile. Back at the Cecil, she made an impression in the lobby, shouting, "I'm crazy, but so is L.A." A moment witnesses recalled as playful but tinged with something darker, a cry for attention in a place where cries were ignored. She was unraveling, a hotel clerk told investigators, but we saw worse every day. We didn't think much of it. At 3:08 p.m., Elisa stepped into an elevator on the 14th floor, the highest floor accessible to guests. The security camera captured her final moments, a 4-minute video that would become one of the internet's most haunting artifacts. She enters, wearing a red hoodie, black shorts, and sandals, her dark hair loose, her posture tense. She presses every button on the panel, her fingers frantic, as if desperate to flee an approaching threat. The doors don't close, hanging open like a taunt. She peers into the hallway, her head darting left and right, her eyes wide with fear, scanning for something or someone. She steps back, presses herself into the elevator's corner, her body shrinking, almost childlike, as if trying to disappear. Then, the strangest moment, she gestures wildly, her hands moving in slow, fluid arcs, splaying and twisting like she's arguing with an invisible figure, casting a spell, or pleading for mercy. She steps out, hesitates, returns, presses the buttons again, her movements growing more erratic, then exits left, her footsteps fading into the void. The doors finally close, the elevator empty, the timestamp glitching into a blur. Was she terrified, fleeing a real pursuer, a guest, a staff member, a stranger from Skid Row? Was she in the grip of a manic episode, her mind conjuring threats that existed only in her head? Or was it something else, something the Cecil, with its blood-soaked walls and secrets, didn't want the world to see? Those 4 minutes, frozen in grainy footage, would spark a global obsession, a mystery that refuses to rest, a window into a tragedy we can't fully grasp, no matter how many times we watch. On February 13th, 2013, the Los Angeles Police Department made a desperate move. They released the elevator footage to the public, hoping for leads in Elisa's disappearance. They expected tips, a witness, maybe a breakthrough. Instead, they unleashed a cultural phenomenon, a 4-minute riddle that would haunt the internet for years. Within hours, the video spread like wildfire across YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, and forums, racking up millions of views and thousands of comments. It wasn't just evidence, it was a ghost story, a psychological puzzle, a cultural touchstone that gripped the world. It's like watching a horror movie, a Reddit user posted in 2013. But it's real, and that's what makes it crawl under your skin. The video's anomalies fueled an avalanche of speculation. The timestamp flickered, unreadable at key moments, glitching like a corrupted file. The footage seemed to slow unnaturally, Elisa's movements distorted, almost dreamlike, her gestures elongated into something eerie. A 44-second gap was missing, later explained by the LAPD as an editing error to protect privacy, but skeptics cried foul. It's been tampered with. A YouTube channel, Web Sleuths, declared in 2014, pointing to the speed changes, the missing frames, the unnatural flow. Online forums dissected every detail, her hand gestures, her posture, the inexplicably open elevator doors. Was she signaling for help? Her waves a coded plea? Was she playing a bizarre game, her movements choreographed? Or was she lost in a psychotic break, her mind a maze of hallucinations? Theories multiplied like shadows in a storm. One popular idea was the Korean elevator game, an urban legend where pressing buttons in a specific order summons a mysterious woman and opens a portal to another dimension. Her movements matched the game's steps, a Reddit thread claimed, though no evidence linked Elisa to the ritual. Others pointed to the Cecil's haunted reputation, citing its history of suicides, murders, and ghostly sightings. The hotel is cursed, a YouTuber insisted, overlaying the video with clips of spectral figures and DVP recordings. Some believed she was hiding from pursuer, a hotel employee, a guest, or a drifter from Skid Row. Look at her eyes. A Twitter post read, "She's running from someone, and they're just off-screen." Paranormal enthusiasts saw possession, conspiracy theorists saw a cover-up, and true crime fans saw a murder waiting to be solved. Elisa's Tumblr, once a private refuge, became fodder for the internet's obsession. Her posts, like, "I'm scared I'll lose myself completely," were scoured for clues, her words twisted into prophecies or cryptic hints. She knew something was coming, a YouTube commenter wrote, ignoring her documented mental health struggles. To those who understood her bipolar disorder, the video was a heartbreaking glimpse of a young woman in crisis, her gestures a manifestation of mania, her fear real to her, but born of her mind. But the internet didn't want a medical explanation. It wanted a mystery, a story grander than a tragic accident. The elevator video became a Rorschach test, revealing more about our need for answers than about what happened to Elisa Lam. For 19 days, Elisa Lam was a ghost, her absence a wound that deepened with every passing hour. Her parents flew from Vancouver, their faces etched with anguish, pleading for information on local news, their voices breaking as they held up her photo, a smiling girl with hopeful eyes. The LAPD searched the Cecil, rooms, hallways, stairwells, even the rooftop, using dogs and flashlights, but found nothing. Missing posters papered Skid Row. Elisa's face fading under rain and grime, ignored by passers-by lost in their own struggles. Her Tumblr, still active, became a digital shrine. Fans and strangers leaving messages. "Come back, Elisa. We're looking for you." Then, on February 19th, 2013, a guest's complaint shattered the silence. "The water tastes foul," they told the front desk. "Like metal, like something dead." The pressure was low, the flow dark and murky. Maintenance worker Santiago Lopez climbed to the roof, to the 4 4-by-8-foot water tanks that supplied the hotel's taps. He scaled a ladder, lifted a heavy, rusted lid, and peered into the darkness. What he saw would haunt him for the rest of his life. Elisa's body floated in the tank, naked, her red hoodie, black shorts, and room key bobbing beside her like relics of a lost life. No blood, no bruises, no signs of violence marred her body. Her phone, always at her side, was gone, never recovered. Firefighters drained the tank, pulling her out under the glare of news helicopters, their blades slicing the air as police tape fluttered in the wind. The discovery was beyond horrific, not just for its grimness, but for its implications. For weeks, guests had been drinking, showering, brushing their teeth, and cooking with water tainted by her decomposing body. "I still have nightmares," a guest told CNN in 2013, their voice trembling with revulsion. "We were living with her corpse, and no one knew." The tank's location deepened the mystery, turning a tragedy into an enigma. The roof was accessible only through a locked door equipped with an alarm, which staff swore was functional, or a fire escape, requiring a 10-foot climb over a concrete ledge. The tank's lid, heavy and rusted, was open when Lopez found it, but lifting it alone would have been a struggle, especially for someone as slight as Elisa, who weighed just 120 pounds. "It's not something one person does easily," a detective noted in a 2013 press conference, his voice tight with unease. Yet there were no fingerprints, no DNA. No signs of anyone else, no ladder, no tools, no trace of a struggle. How did she get there? Why was she naked, her clothes floating separately? And why did no one notice for 19 days, in a hotel crawling with staff, guests, and security cameras? The discovery didn't end the mystery. It opened a Pandora's box of questions, each more unsettling than the last. The autopsy offered cold facts, but no comfort, no closure. Elisa's body showed no trauma, no drugs, no alcohol, only trace amounts of her bipolar medications, suggesting she'd stopped taking them days, maybe weeks, before her death. Her blood levels of lithium were negligible, her lamotrigine barely detectable, a sign her manic state could have spiraled unchecked. The coroner ruled it an accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder as a contributing factor. The theory Elisa, in a manic episode, fled to the roof, perhaps via the fire escape, driven by paranoia or hallucinations. She saw the water tank as a hiding place, climbed in, removed her clothes in a delusional haze, and drowned, unable to escape the tank's steep, slippery walls. The open lid, the lack of alarm, the absence of foul play, all pointed to a tragic, solitary end. But the explanation crumbled under scrutiny, its logic buckling against the weight of improbability. How did Elisa bypass the locked roof door, which staff insisted triggered a loud alarm? The fire escape was possible, but required scaling a 10-foot ledge, an awkward feat for someone in a psychotic state. The tank's lid, weighing at least 20 pounds, was heavy and rusted, difficult to lift and maneuver alone. Could she have climbed in, closed it behind her, and left no trace? Why was her clothing off, neatly floating beside her, her sandals and key intact? Why was her phone missing, never found despite extensive searches? And how did no one, staff, guests, security, Notice her absence or her journey to the roof in a hotel where cameras watched the halls. Theories filled the gaps, each darker than the last. Some pointed to the Cecil's history of cover-ups, unreported crimes, ignored alarms, shady dealings with police. That hotel was a black hole, a former resident told Vice in 2014. Things happened, and management buried them. Others saw eerie parallels to the 2005 horror film Dark Water, where a girl's body is found in a rooftop tank, the water fouling a building's supply. It's too similar, a Reddit thread argued, like someone staged it to mimic the movie. A bizarre coincidence fueled wilder speculation. In 2013, Skid Row had a tuberculosis outbreak, tested with a method called Elisa, a name eerily close to hers. Is it a code? A YouTuber asked, suggesting a government experiment gone wrong. The elevator video itself raised doubts. The missing 44 seconds, the glitching timestamp, the unnatural slow motion. Some believed it was edited to hide a perpetrator, a second figure, just off-screen. Someone was with her. A Twitter user posted in 2013, and they cut them out. Yet the LAPD found no evidence of foul play. No suspects, no witnesses, no DNA. The simplest answer, a psychotic break, clashed with the complexity of the scene, leaving the public grasping for something grander, something more sinister than a young woman lost to her illness. What really happened to Elisa Lam? And why does the truth feel so maddeningly out of reach? A shadow dancing just beyond our grasp. On June 20th, 2013, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office released their verdict, a single line that was meant to end speculation. Elisa Lam died by accidental drowning, her bipolar disorder a key contributing factor. The LAPD laid out their case with clinical precision. Elisa, off her medication, entered a manic state, her mind besieged by paranoia and hallucinations. The elevator video showed her in distress, pressing buttons erratically, hiding, gesturing wildly, behavior consistent with the psychotic break. Driven by imagined threats, she fled to the roof, likely via the fire escape, bypassing the locked door's alarm, which may have been disabled or ignored. She saw the water tank as a refuge, a place to hide from her demons, climbed in, removed her clothes in a delusional haze, and drowned, unable to escape the tank's steep, slippery walls. The open lid, the lack of trauma, the absence of anyone else's DNA, all pointed to a tragic accident, a solitary end born of a mind at war with itself. Her behavior is textbook mania, a detective told reporters in 2013, his voice firm but weary. She was running from shadows that weren't there. Elisa's family, heartbroken but resigned, confirmed her history of manic episodes, hiding under beds, hearing voices, believing she was being watched. She'd get paranoid, her sister told police. But we never thought it would end like this. The official story was logical, grounded in medical fact, supported by her low medication levels and documented illness. But it wasn't enough, not for the public, not for the internet, not even for those who loved her. The Cecil's reputation as a haven for crime and corruption made the accident label feel like the convenient dodge. The video's anomalies, missing seconds, slowed frames, glitching timestamps, suggested tampering, a cover-up to protect the hotel or someone within it. The tank's inaccessibility, the heavy lid, the locked roof door, it all seemed implausible for a lone, disoriented woman, no matter how manic. No way she did that alone. A Reddit user posted in 2014, echoing thousands of voices online. The hotel knew something, or someone put her there. Skeptics pointed to the Cecil's history of looking the other way. Unreported assaults, ignored alarms, cozy relationships with local police. They wanted it to go away. A former employee told Vice in 2014. A dead tourist was bad for business. Even Elisa's family, while accepting her mental health struggles, questioned how she ended up in that tank, how a hotel with hundreds of guests and staff missed her for 19 days. The official story explained the how, but not the why. Why a young woman's cries for help went unheard. Why a place with a legacy of death didn't notice her absence. Why the simplest answer felt so wrong. People want a villain, a psychologist told NBC in 2013, because a mental health crisis is too ordinary, too close to home. For Elisa's loved ones, the truth, whatever it was a wound that never healed, a question mark that lingered over every official report, a silence that screamed louder than any conspiracy. Elisa Lam's story is more than a mystery. It's a mirror, a stark reflection of a society that fails its most vulnerable, that turns pain into spectacle, that looks away when it matters most. Her bipolar disorder, documented in her Tumblr with raw, aching honesty, was a cry for understanding in a world that stigmatizes mental illness. "I'm tired of feeling like I'm drowning in my own head," she wrote in 2012, words that resonate with chilling clarity now. Yet at the Cecil, her erratic behavior, shouting in the lobby, pacing, leaving notes, was dismissed as just another quirk in a hotel where chaos was king. No one checked on her. No one asked if she was okay. No one saw the warning signs of a young woman spiraling toward disaster. She was screaming for help, a friend wrote on Reddit in 2013. But in a place like that, screams are just background noise. Skid Row, the Cecil's grim neighbor, is a monument to societal neglect. 50,000 homeless people, many with untreated mental illnesses, abandoned to a concrete jungle where survival is a daily battle. Elisa, a tourist staying in a budget hotel, was as invisible as they were, her struggles lost in the cacophony of a city that's mastered the art of looking away. Her story exposes the cracks in our systems, underfunded mental health care that leaves people like Elisa to fend for themselves, hotels cutting corners on security to save a dime, a city that lets places like the Cecil fester, profiting from the desperate while ignoring their cries. The hotel was a predator, a former employee told Vice in 2014. It preyed on people like Elisa, young, alone, lost, and no one cared until it was too late. The internet's response was its own indictment, a dark reflection of our obsession with tragedy. Web sleuths chasing viral fame turned Elisa's pain into a game, a puzzle to be solved for likes and subscribers. They harassed innocents, like a musician named Morbid, falsely accused of her murder until he proved he was in Mexico during her death, his life appended by baseless rumors. Her Tumblr, once a private refuge, was dissected for clues. Her words, "I hope I leave something behind, even if it's just a ripple," twisted into memes, conspiracy theories, and clickbait thumbnails. "We romanticized her tragedy," a YouTuber admitted in a 2021 video, because it was easier than facing the truth. She needed help, and no one was there. Elisa's story became a symbol of a lost generation, young people searching for meaning, battling silent demons, slipping through a world too busy, too distracted to notice. It forces us to ask, how many Elisas are out there crying out in blogs and posts in quiet moments, and how many times do we scroll past, look away, fail to listen? Elisa Lam didn't just disappear into the night. She disappeared into a system that failed her, a society that looked away, and a building that swallowed her story whole. The Cecil Hotel, with its blood-soaked past and predatory presence, was more than a backdrop. It was a catalyst, a place that amplified her fears, her isolation, her descent into the darkness of her own mind. Her Tumblr posts, now frozen in time like digital ghosts, read like a requiem for a life cut short. I hope I leave something behind, even if it's just a ripple. That ripple became a tidal wave, a viral video, a global obsession, a cautionary tale about a world that lets its most vulnerable slip through the cracks. The elevator footage still plays, looping endlessly on YouTube, Reddit, in the corners of our minds. Every frame, her frantic buttons, her strange gestures, her final step into the void, begs for answers we may never find. Was it a tragic accident? A young woman betrayed by her own mind, climbing into a water tank to escape horrors only she could see? Or was it something darker, hidden in the Cecil shadows, buried by a hotel that thrived on secrets, protected by a city that didn't want to know? The truth lies somewhere in the silence, in the gaps between what we know and what we fear, a truth that feels both achingly close and impossibly distant. Elisa Lam was more than a mystery, more than a viral video, more than a name in a coroner's report. She was a daughter, a sister, a writer, a dreamer who wanted to be enough, who wanted to leave a mark on a world that often felt too heavy to bear. Her story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the stigma we place on mental illness, the systems we let fail, the loneliness we ignore in ourselves and others. The elevator video still plays, a haunting echo of her final moments, a reminder of a life lost and a world that didn't listen. But the questions it leaves behind, about Elisa, about us, about the darkness we all carry, may never be answered. What do you believe happened to Elisa Lam? Was it a tragic accident, born of a mind at war with itself? Or does the truth still lurk in the shadows of the Cecil Hotel, waiting for someone to shine a light? Drop your thoughts below. Share this story to honor her memory, and join us next time as we uncover another mystery that refuses to stay buried, another life that demands to be remembered, another echo that lingers in the silence.